Hey, what's going on, everybody? BDO44 coming up with you with another video. All right, so this is I guess I can make this a playoff thought video, but it ain't really breaking down nothing. I'm just talking about my own opinion, so that's about as far as it's gonna go. But I'm just thinking about my Laker fandom and who, my mind was going off about who I could root for as a fan. And I figured it would probably be one of those, the Mavericks was the first team that came to mind because the Lakers had their issues with the Celtics forever, so we'll never root for them. And of course, the Miami Heat, it's a weird dynamic because we kind of have strange history with them. Of course, we traded, Shaq there, and no Laker fan was happy about it. Not a single soul was happy about that. And then, of course, the presence of the Kobe Bryant versus LeBron James thing, which was media driven, fully media driven. But ultimately was in our minds, or in my mind. I'm not gonna speak for anybody else, but it was promoted to us quite a bit, and we didn't really like the Heat during their greatest era. We were enemies to that team, even though they didn't actually see us as any type of threat at all. But all in all, it's that energy that's still lingering. Pat Riley, that's our old guy, so it's not the greatest vibe for the Lakers and the Heat. To be honest with you, it's not the greatest. We don't really like them like that. With the Mavericks, we've had our battles with the Mavericks for sure. Obviously, they've eliminated us in the playoffs in dramatic fashion. So we have memories of them. Not so good memories with them. And of course, the Golden State Warriors, and that's where my mind really went. Like, you know, the Lakers, we don't really have any problems with the Warriors. I guess that's the topic that really made me turn on the camera. Was like, and I was breaking down like, okay, do we like the Warriors? Do we hate the Warriors? One would think the Lakers would have problems with the Warriors. Laker fans would have problems with the Warriors. And I don't know how the fan base necessarily feels. I don't think I've really even had the conversation with anybody. But for myself, it's like when I assess the Golden State Warriors, we missed them. All the times they were good, we were bad. And all the times we were great, they were bad. So it was like there was never really no history there. Now, did we have some nice battles? Heck yeah, we've had some amazing battles. I think about a game where Kobe Bryant and Anton Jameson went off for 50 points, in the same game. I think of battles like that, many battles where our Shaq and Kobe Warriors had some good games with the Warriors. Not Shaq and Kobe Lakers had some good games with the Warriors. Um, over the years, where even though the Warriors were a bad team, they gave us hell. Like you know how you have your favorite team, and even though their team that they go up against as a rival isn't necessarily a good team, they still give you problems. You know what I mean? That was the Warriors for us. So we always had mucked up, ugly games against the Warriors. You know, low scoring sometimes, lots of heavy, punishment. Obviously, we had Shaq. They had Eric Dampier, and Dampier was one of those guys that gave Shaq a lot of problems, believe it or not. So that's how I remember the Golden State Warriors. They had Monte Ellis and Anton Jameson, and they went through, of course, the We Believe with Steven Jackson and Baron Davis, and all these different eras. I think about when Derek Fisher finally left the Lakers, and that was the team that he went with. And I remember the feeling that I had. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I could live with that. Like that, if Derek Fisher was gonna leave us, him going to the old trash Warriors, it didn't bother me at all. I was like, I hate that he's leaving us, but I can see him in a Warrior uniform and not cry. You know what I mean? It was that kind of thing. So it's just that type of vibe, I guess, for myself as a Laker fan. Growing up, my mom and everybody from her side is from Oakland, so like I would constantly go down there, and they're Warrior fans. So it's like I remember going down there, looking at my grandmother's house back in like the early 2000s, and looking at the paper. And I remember just having a conversation with my family about the Lakers and how we had just won a championship. I think it was like I think it was the first one. And how the Warriors are just they're still struggling. And I'm sitting there with my cousin. He was like, "Man, I'm a Warriors fan, but it's just so hard, bro. We just been bad my whole life." And I was sitting there with my grandma. She was like, "Yeah, I root for the Warriors, but they're not so good, you know." And then it's like, okay, you know, to see to remember that feeling, because at that point I had already been an NBA fan for about 7 years, right? So as a kid, 7 years is like a lifetime. So at that point, I remember thinking, God, the Warriors been bad forever. You know what I mean? That lasted for a long time. And so to see them become a dynasty, to see my family, you know what I mean, get a chance to get some championships up there. I have a good friend also who's a massive Warrior fan. She's raising her kid as a Warrior fan. It's kind of it's okay, I guess. You know what I mean? It's not like I like them. I don't like the Warriors by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a neutral team, I guess, for myself. You know what I mean? Now, as it pertains to them wanting to see them win this year, I just have Warrior fatigue. It's no different than Spur fatigue back in the day. I don't want to see them win no more. I've seen them win a bunch of times. You know, I like some of the new players that they got, and root for everybody who doesn't have a championship to get a ring. But just in general, I would much rather see somebody new get it. However, there's a problem because the Eastern Conference teams I don't really want to see win. Now, obviously, the Heat, if they win it, it's not a big deal. But the Celtics, you know, that's like we're at DEFCON 3 right now as Laker fans. Nobody's really talking about it, but we're all very uncomfortable right now. We just tied these guys, and it does look like they're probably the best team left in the playoffs. So, you know, we're very hopeful that the Miami Heat will take care of business, and then we're very hopeful that somebody else will from the West. So, needless to say, that's what it is universally for all Laker Nation. This is a very serious time for us. We do not want them to get that 19th championship. Or 18th, rather. What is it, 18th? Where are we tied at? It's 18th. Yeah, so yeah, that's a big deal. And for me on this camera, I got on here and challenged them to get better um, because I felt like they didn't do enough to make themselves a championship caliber team in a year where we were. And to see where we are right now, and to know that video is still floating back there, it leaves a very, very, very uncomfortable feeling about it. I guess I could say it's you know, but that's what it is. You know, they did what it is I challenged them to do. Not that they saw my video, but it's the point. They made themselves better. They put themselves in a position from being a horrible team, you know, in the first half of the season, or lackluster, not horrible, to being where they are right now in the Eastern Conference Finals. And you know, there's a legitimate chance for them to hoist up their 18th championship. So you hope that Golden State or Dallas or Miami can stop them. That's the most important thing. But you understand that by the letter of the law, if they weren't the Celtics, you would definitely be rooting for them because they have the most players that haven't run it. They're the newest team, you know, and it's like, I can't do it. There ain't no way in hell. So there's that. But at the end of the day, man, you know, probably the most reasonable thing for me is just as a fan looking at this is just root for the Dallas Mavericks. At the end of the day, that's what it really comes down to. We get Luka his first championship. Nobody on that squad has a championship. You know, Golden State Warrior fatigue, that neutralizes them. Boston Celtics, ain't no way. And the Miami Heat, I still have a bad taste in my mouth about that franchise, even though the person that was spearheading the team that we hated is now a Laker. It's very, very confusing. But that's the reality of it. Still don't like the Heat. So that's the gist of my thought. I don't speak for no other Laker fans, but I do believe that most of us would rather the Celtics lose at some point. I think that's a very, very safe thing to say. So that's what I got, man. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.